Hey YouTube, Alex here. And I wanted to make a video discussing how Thailand has changed me. I came to Thailand 8 months ago. It's been a wonderful journey. I've spent time in Chiang Mai, where I am right now, in Bangkok, in Ayutthaya, in Pattaya, and I'm actually headed to my next destination here in a few days to get away from the burning season. The first thing I've noticed is that I laugh and smile a lot more here in Thailand. I'm not going to say I don't have many great experiences back home in the States laughing and smiling with friends. That's typically limited to after work or more so on the weekends. During the work week, I'm anxious, I'm stressed out. I've worked in a lot of different sales roles, which tend to be very stressful. And I just don't find myself in these roles laughing or smiling or joking around. In America, sarcasm is much more common. People have this callous, sarcastic attitude at times that doesn't have a place in Asian culture. In many Asian countries, you'll notice sarcasm isn't a thing, and if you try to use sarcasm, it comes across as rude. Here, I'm not trying to gauge intent when I see somebody laughing and smiling. I've seen people laugh in America over a very inappropriate situation. I remember the last time I flew out of Las Vegas, and this woman, I could tell she had like a foreign accent. She was talking to the gate agents. She was very stressed out. She was saying, if I don't get on this plane and go home, my husband's going to divorce me. She was crying. She was upset. Eventually, she leaves, and as soon as she leaves, the gate agents just start laughing and making fun of her. This is disgusting to me. This is callous. This is rude. This is hateful. It really just was a sign to me of how far things have fallen back in America. I was there for the whole thing, and this lady didn't get ugly. Yes, she was somewhat hysterical. She was very stressed out, but she wasn't being disrespectful to the gate agents. She wasn't calling them names or shouting or screaming. She was really upset. You're not going to see that kind of thing in Thailand. People have a sense of compassion. People genuinely want to help. People don't like to see other people suffer for no reason. It seems like some people in America really get off on this sense of control. Here in Thailand, I'm always smiling and joking and laughing with people. Occasionally, a lady will flirt with me and we'll joke around and laugh. And often at the store, when I need service and I'm getting great service, I'm smiling and thanking them. I show them a why out of appreciation and respect. It's a very different culture in that way. And because I feel so calm here, I'm smiling and laughing all the time. There's times where I just start smiling and laughing at things I would have almost rolled my eyes at back home. Sometimes I'll catch a Thai person making a joke because I'm starting to pick up a little bit of Thai, and I'll start laughing. And then the look of surprise on their face when they see, oh wow, foreigner understands, is really funny, because then they start laughing at that. They were laughing at one thing, and now they're laughing because I'm laughing. It's made me into a much happier person, smiling and laughing a lot more. The number two way that Thailand has changed me is that I sleep a lot better here. Back in America, I found myself in sketch living situations, in odd buildings, noisy environments. There was a fire discharge on the first level of the old building I lived in California. That's terrifying to think that you might wake up and need to go to the hospital, or maybe your situation may be over. It's anxiety inducing. It's not normal. And I know some people will say, oh, it's just California. These kinds of things happen everywhere, unfortunately. It's not like you can just go somewhere else and all of a sudden it's perfect. The few areas that are very, very safe in America are extraordinarily expensive. And now you're seeing some of those areas being targeted for crimes because the bad guys know that's where the money is. Here in Thailand, I'm very rarely stressed out. I live in a quiet, modern building, not a old building that has poor sound insulation and is very noisy with bad neighbors who are always up to no good. Actually, here in Thailand, I live in a modern building that has great neighbors. We have wonderful people in the lobby at the front desk who help to organize things, help you with whatever you need. They're available not just in person, but also over chat. I feel so much more comfort, not just is my place quieter so I can sleep well. I tend to be kind of sensitive to noise, but also the people that work here are super helpful. I remember in California, it was really hard to get a hold of the building manager. At times, it was just very obvious. It was like a elf you pay me situation. Just pay me and leave me alone. It's like, no, I'm paying you pretty expensive rent by American standards. to be able to ask basic questions or have basic service complete should be included. When I go to work, I don't just, I'm not going to do my job, man. Just leave me alone. Just don't bother me. No, that's how you lose your job. In America, the standards have fallen, and so you have to just kind of tolerate poor living conditions unless you're wealthy, unless you have leverage, or unless you have family support. Sleeping better is causing my blood pressure to come down to healthier levels, having me in a much better mood. I'm not always sleep deprived with big bags under my eyes, chugging coffee to try to fight through another day on not enough rest. Here I feel very rested. I feel very calm, very collected, very in control. It's very rare that I feel impatient. Here it's more like once or twice a month kind of thing where I feel like I'm losing my patience. Where back home it was every day because you're under so much pressure. You have to do everything fast, and if something isn't done as fast as it can possibly be done, you're gonna feel aggravated. Like I remember my weekends back home were time to do chores, and if something got in the way of chores, I felt really frustrated. Like if I went to the laundromat, every machine was in use. Well, great, I'm gonna have to be here for 3 hours. I'm gonna have to sit here and wait for 30 minutes to get started, and then it's gonna take me a couple of hours to get done, and then it's gonna take me some time to get home. When I speak about these issues, I'm speaking specifically about my experiences in California. I know California doesn't represent the whole country. Certainly it is part of the United States. Number 3 is that I don't feel this kind of low-grade depression that I felt in America often due to the high level of regulation, restriction, and control. In an individualistic society, you have to have lots of rules because if you didn't, things would just immediately devolve into chaos. This is different than in a collectivist society where people generally get along, try to follow the rules. There is this group cohesion. In America, you don't go up and talk to people. I was talking about this on a stream on the Philippines Antics channel yesterday. You don't just go up to somebody in San Francisco and start talking to them. If somebody does that, you should immediately be suspicious. You should immediately wonder what they're wanting from you, what they're trying to sell you, what they're trying to get from you. That's not the case here in Thailand. I have the building security guard downstairs. Every time he sees me, he jokes around, he greets me, and it's just such a friendly experience. If you're feeling like you're having a stressful day, but somebody acknowledges you, somebody greets you, I'm not talking about your friends, but somebody like a stranger in effect greets you and acknowledges you and affirms your existence, that's really, really special. If you're feeling depressed and isolated, a lack of purpose like we often feel in the West, being here in Thailand, that's fixed that for me in a lot of ways. I don't feel that way. I have much more clarity on my purpose, on my goals, on my objectives. I don't have this sense of, okay, here's another monotonous day. In the US, I could predict to you what the next 10 to 20 years of my life are gonna look like. That sounds horrible, but it's kind of true. Like if I'm working a corporate sales job, yeah, Monday through Friday, I'm gonna work from like 8 a.m. until 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., depending on what I need to do that day. After work, things are so expensive and I'm trying to save money that I'm not gonna do anything. I'll just go to YouTube, and I'm also exhausted by this point too. I'm gonna go on YouTube. I may walk, I may go to the grocery store to get some groceries, or I may do some chores, but I'm just kind of passing time, trying to get through time while spending as little as possible. The other part of that is back home, you have some things that are very inconvenient because that's just the way they are, where things in Thailand feel very convenient. Thailand is a very convenient place to live. You can have plenty of great food within walking distance. If I want food delivery, it's really cheap. I can press a button on an app and have food delivered for a very low price. I still have the convenience of online shopping here. I can use Lazada or Shopee. There's also shopping malls all throughout the urban parts of Thailand where even in like smallish cities, you can go find a shopping mall and cool off, have some good food, relax. Very different than in America where the shopping malls are mostly sketchy. They're places you don't really want to go. You don't really want to be there after dark. They tend to attract a lot of odd or rough characters. I often say that in America, we have the freedom from certain things, but we don't have the freedom to do certain things. Oh man, I'll just go start a restaurant in America. That's going to cost you about 200 grand to get started. That's not something that the average person can just, I got 200K, I'm going to go start a restaurant. This is very different than in Thailand where grandma, she could just make some food up, take it door to door, sell it, save up her money, open up a stall. And by the way, I borrowed this from Vagabond Awake. Go check out his channel. Huge fan of his channel. She's able to get on that ladder of business that if you're not wealthy, independently wealthy in the US, there's a lot of things that are just off limits. You better just take your job. So number 3, the number 4 thing is I'm much more clear-minded here in Thailand. When I'm not constantly on edge trying to figure out who's trying to get what from me in San Francisco, when I'm not constantly trying to be more efficient and be on the ball, and if I'm not working, I need to be doing chores. If I'm not doing chores, I need to try to do this, and if I'm not doing that, I need to try to do that. And you feel like you're constantly in a rush, and I think the stress causes people to just not think very clearly. I think that that's part of the reason you see so many mental health issues in the United States, so many people struggling, is that the pressure to be as efficient as possible all the time is not great for a lot of people. There are some people that thrive in it. I have some friends that are very high performers, that are very hard workers, that get lots and lots of stuff done, and it's crazy to me because I feel like, wow, I wish I had some of your energy, guys. I think for some of us, that constantly being rushed and not being able to take our time to do things how we feel is appropriate or correct way to do things, it makes us not think as clearly. And I think that when you're not thinking as clearly, it benefits some of the corporate interests in the country. When you're making bad decisions from not thinking clearly, it's easier to keep you in a job that you don't like. It's easier to make you go that extra mile because you weren't thinking clearly. You got caught up in your desires and you purchased something you really don't need. I buy very little here in Thailand, and that's something I should get into later in the video, but there's very little non-consumables that I feel like I have to buy here. Yes, I do buy food. Yes, I do pay rent. Yes, I do pay for transportation. The biggest purchases I've made here have been for the channel. They haven't been for me personally. I haven't got out and bought some jewelry or some fancy clothing. It's been some DJI products that I can shoot with. That's another thing, is I think much more clearly here in Thailand. Thai people are much more polite and non-confrontational, that people are not looking to bother you. They're not as nosy. They're not in this dog-eat-dog mentality where they're trying to get you to open up and be vulnerable so they can take advantage of you. The 5th thing, and this is the final point for this video, is that I don't feel as much social anxiety here in Thailand. I'm naturally an introvert, naturally a person who prefers to spend time on my own. Back in America, this was on overdrive because of the stress of dealing with other people, more specifically the status games. America's an extraordinarily status-driven society. People are very concerned about the house they live in, the car they drive, all these things that are external multiplayer games. They're games that we're playing against other people outside of our internal schema. So they're games that you'll never win. No matter what house you get, you could always get a bigger house. No matter what car you get, you could always get a better car. That doesn't exist here in Thailand. I'm happy to eat at humble Thai restaurants with small stools and surrounded by local people. I don't need a car here. Who cares? There's nobody that's come up to me in Thailand saying, what kind of car do you drive? I have had that experience happen in America, but I don't have that here. Nobody's concerned about whether I have a car, I don't have a car. Most people don't care about what building I live in. The only people that care about what building I live in are people that are coming over to hang out. Other than that, nobody's asking me, oh, which building do you live in? Oh, that's a really nice building. I'm glad you don't live in this other building that's not that great. So people are hyper status conscious, and to me it just makes me socially anxious because I don't consider myself to be this high status, high roller kind of person. In America, people pick up on that. People pick up on the fact that I don't try to flaunt wealth and try to show off, and I'm not concerned about what people think. And so it's almost like if you say, hey, look, I'm not going to play that game, people still judge you for not playing the game. They don't do that here in Thailand. People really are just non-judgmental. I can go out with some dumpy looking clothes on. Nobody cares. Nobody's come up to me saying, man, you need to dress better. When you're trying to compete, you're more willing to do things that are unethical because you want to win above all else. And winning is more important than anything else. When I know that I'm surrounded by sharks, this has been 5 reasons Thailand has changed me. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Have you found any of these to be true? Do you agree with any of these? Do you disagree with any of these? Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think around 15% of viewers of my channel subscribe. So if more of you could subscribe, that would help us get to that milestone of 1,000 subs. That's my goal right now, is to hit that 1,000 sub mark. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.